Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's live episode of Langerr at the mic. Today, we will be, right in this episode particularly, we'll be doing more of a post-game show of the Montreal Canadiens versus Pittsburgh Penguins game from yesterday. Because, like I said on my Twitter account, I decided to watch the Stranger Things Season 3 finale with my family, so I decided to make a post-game show today instead of right after the game last night. So we'll break that down and also stay tuned for a roundtable episode of just the NHL qualifiers in general. We'll be joined by Ryan Silver and Ethan Myers, and we'll be having a very fun roundtable discussion of how the NHL qualifiers have been going so far overall, and we'll preview the rest of the qualifier round. So stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, so let's get right into it. Obviously, the Canadiens last night lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-1. And look, in my opinion, it was sort of the same game that happened in Game 1. Pittsburgh controlled most of the play, and they were the better team yet again. But this time, they just happened to score more goals than the Canadiens, of course. So, and the Canadiens, I would say, played a little bit more conservatively than they did in Game 1. At times, they did ramp it up a lot, especially in the third period when they were pressing for that game-tying goal at the time when it was 1-0. But still, it was just not – the Canadiens had little to no offensive threat for most of the game, and that's pretty much why they were unable to get much going, and that's why they only managed one goal. And that's mostly the reason why they lost. I also think that coaching was fantastic in Game 1. I think the coaching in Game 2 was really not good. We'll get into that in a bit. So so anyway, I'm going to go through my notes right now, and we'll talk about we'll talk about what went wrong last night for the Montreal Canadiens. So it was a pretty even start in the first couple shifts again, so that was good. Again, kind of the same game where just both teams are filling each other out early on. But then Crosby got wide open because Yoel Armia stopped skating. I think Yoel Armia wasn't aware that Crosby was his man on the back check, because I remember Petrie was covering the play that was going low into the corner, and Ben Sherratt had, I think it was Kulak was covering the middle. And there was someone driving the net in the middle, but Crosby was the trailing guy. As a result, as if you're going to be the third man, or the F3, as you like to call it, in on the rush or even on a forecheck, well, then that has to be a forward's responsibility. Can't be a defenseman's responsibility, and that's where Armia on the back check was caught napping, and he just let Crosby streak in wide open against Price, and that's how. Look, could Price have stopped that? Sure, it was 5-hole, but you know what? We can't fault Price for that when you have Sidney Crosby coming in all alone on you, because Sidney Crosby knew exactly what he was doing when he went 5-hole, because he knew that he had a short break and he had Price on his heels probably. So look, it was a goal. It was a goal scorer's goal, and I feel like Sidney Crosby is one of the best at scoring those very basic type of goals. I mean, look at how he scored on Ryan Miller in 2010, and look at how he scored off Carey Price's leg the other game. And just, I don't know, he's one of the best players in the world, and one of the best at just finding ways to put the puck in the net, and that's all, even if it doesn't look pretty. So, but what I would say a huge highlight in this game was the penalty kill. Power play was terrible again. I would say maybe not as bad as the exhibition game, but definitely worse than the than Game 1, and probably as bad as it was during the season, because again, no organization in terms of entering the zone. Once they entered the zone, there was no sustained pressure really. And that was just, given how bad the power play was, the PK really equalized that, because the Penguins had numerous chances on the power play that the Canadiens just stymied, and of course Carey Price was fantastic. Again, we'll get a little bit more into that also, just the way the rest of the first period went was I noticed Crosby playing really, really angry in the first period. I think Crosby willed his line and willed his team to be aggressive and continue keeping the Canadians on their heels. Just he was playing. I found that he was definitely a lot more difficult to contain in this game versus game one. And then you have the poor bench discipline. You know, the Canadians with the too many men penalties. I think they had one of the most too many men penalties in the league this year, and just too many men penalties in the first period alone is just not acceptable. That's whether that's on coaching or just coordinating who goes on, who comes off, and all that. That was just very, very poor by the Montreal Canadiens in terms of discipline and bench management. So that was the first period, and honestly, given that 1-0 going into the second period at that point was lucky, and then the second period was if the first period wasn't already, then the second period was the Carey Price show by far. I mean, look, and the Canadiens actually started off pretty well in the second period. I remember they had a couple of decent scoring chances, particularly with Armia. It was like I think a pass in front off Armia's stick that went that Murray made a pretty good stop on. And then already I noticed that Claude Julien started mixing his lines a little bit. He put Wheel with Deneau and Gallagher, and then he also put Kotkaniemi with Lehkonen and Tatar. So he's mixing the lines a little bit, which is understandable when you're trying to get an equalizing goal. But still, I still noticed that the Canadians just had way too many dumb passes. Whether even on 5-on-5 and when attacking the zone, there's just too many dumb passes. And particularly Jonathan Drouin, who once again played a very uninspiring game, unfortunately. Just every time, whether it was, particularly Drouin, but just I find the forwards and in general, we're just making too many passes that just killed any momentum of sustaining offense in the offensive zone. And that was really a reason why, again, the Canadians only managed, I think, like under 15 shots through the first two periods. Do I have that in front of me? I think I have that in front of me here. I have the ice time. There's the ice time. Let me see the shots on goal. I don't love this setup here. Oh, wait. I think anyway. But the Canadians just only managed it was under 15 shots on goal between the first two periods, which really is not great when you're down, and even if you're not down, it still needs to be better. So, and then again, I think part of the undisciplined penalties that the Canadians took in the second period was on themselves, but also Chris Lee didn't help much either. Chris Lee just really made some unfavorable calls against the Canadians yesterday. Look, but then again, I'll be the first to tell you that you can't blame the refs. You got to be better by yourself. And while that was, I would say, most of the calls, besides maybe the Armia penalty, where Armia literally was just cutting across the neutral zone and happened to run into a Penguins player. I forget exactly who he was, but yeah, just that's not interference. So that's not slashing or hooking or tripping, whatever Chris Lee called. That was a terrible call. But and then he didn't call a very similar play, I think, that Pittsburgh did on Montreal. But anyway, again, I'm not here to complain about refs, because if you have to beat the refs, then so be it. You got to be better. But all that being said, the good news was that Carey Price was phenomenal. Carey Price was arguably better last night in game 2 than he was in game 1. I wouldn't even say it's arguable. I'd say he was objectively better in game 2 than he was in game 1. Just that penalty kill alone, where he had to make 3 or 4 saves in a matter of 5 seconds. The awesome thing about Carey Price is just how calm he is in the midst of so much madness. You have all, I think it was a 5-on-4, 5-on-3, whatever it was. You have all 8 or 9 guys just scrambling all out in front of him, right? And he's just there chilling in his net, taking away space to shoot the puck and just make it look easy. And then he just very calmly stops 1, gives a rebound front, stops 2, stops 3, stretches out his left pad and stops 4, whatever it was. Like that's when Carey Price is on top of his game, and when he's just when he's in the zone, because look, it'll take a a Sidney Crosby streaking in all alone on a tight breakaway, or a pass, a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1, then a perfect pass and a perfect shot to beat him. Like that was the second goal in the third period. But honestly, between Carey Price and the penalty killer, the job by the penalty kill, those were the biggest highlights of this game, because the Montreal Canadiens penalty kill last night, again, between whether it was X and O's or Carey Price just standing on his head, was phenomenal. And honestly, I was so astonished that the game was only 1-0 after the first period. That was just remarkable. Sorry, after even the second period, like it should have been, again, at least 3-0 at the very least. And but the Canadiens, again, just weathered the storm on the penalty kill, and Price stood on his head. But then again, it was up to the Canadiens to start turning things up offensively in the third period, and they did. They started generating some chances early on. I remember Matt Murray made a really nice save early on in the third period. I forget who it was. I think it was like a solid chance on the rush, and he had to make a big save. Oh yeah, I remember it was a pass in front and a kind of a backdoor type of play, and he made a really nice save. Matt Murray did. But here's where I find the coaching started to really go south in the third period. The coaching really did not maximize the Canadiens' chances of getting a tying goal, because Max Domi, I think, has wore out his welcome on the fourth line in a good way, in the sense that he doesn't belong there anymore. He belongs on one of at least the top 3 lines at the very least, ideally replacing Jonathan Drouin on the second line. Maybe even if it's as a winger, because if you're in a 1-0 hockey game in the playoffs and you need to score a game-tying goal, you put your players out there that are most likely to give it to you. And when Jonathan Drouin is just, killing any positive momentum on the line of Armia and Suzuki, well, you can't keep playing him. You gotta bring up someone like Domi, who has been playing hard almost every shift that he's had on that fourth line, and playing with 2 guys that unfortunately aren't up to his level, guys Dale Weiss and Jordan Wheel, who, again, nothing against them personally, of course, but they're just, look, you can't put on Max Domi, Dale Weiss, and Jordan Wheel on the ice with regularity in the third period when you're trying to tie a game up. The same way you can't put Jonathan Drouin and rely on him when he's not giving you anything. Whether it's effort, whether it's just something in his head, I don't know. But Jonathan Drouin, look, now the time is now for him to perform, and he just shows that he just hasn't been performing, and you have to accept that and put him down the fourth line, let him wake the heck up, and bring up Max Domi, who deserves more ice time on the top, at least top 3 lines, if not the top 2 lines. And that's when the Canadiens started playing more aggressively in the third. They were playing aggressive. I mean, obviously they had to try to tie the game up, right? But again, there's just some instances where coaching was really not ideal, where you had a defensive zone face-off and you put Kotkaniemi's line out there with Byron and Lehkonen against Crosby. Sure, Penguins have the last change. They have the benefit of the last change, so they could dictate the matchups, but still, I don't think it's a good idea to expose your 20-year-old sophomore centerman with 2 wingers in the defensive zone against Sidney Crosby of a 1-goal game. I don't think that's a great idea. Maybe you should put someone like, maybe even have Domi on the wing, centered by Suzuki, maybe, like I said before. So at least you have, if you lose the draw or if someone gets waved out, then someone else could come in to take the face-off against Crosby. And then in the same way, you had there was the fourth line, or no, it was a tired Pittsburgh Penguins shift where they had to ice the puck at one point in the third period, and Claude Julien puts out the fourth line of Domi, Weiss, and Jordan Wheel. You got one of those 3 right in Domi, but when you have your opponent on their heels, and you have a chance to now maybe tie the game up, you put your 3 best players out there. You put your 3 guys that can do something offensively in an offensive zone face off after an icing on when after the guys on for Pittsburgh are all tired, and you try to attack with your best players and not your fourth line. And that was disappointing how Claude Julien put his fourth line on instead. And now at the end of the game, I made a note for myself to look at the ice times, because here's where things got really, again, intriguing, or just really, sorry, not intriguing, I'd say more disappointing, because if we look at the ice times here by the Canadiens players, D-men, obviously we know Weber, Sherratt, and Petrie ate up all the ice time, but if you look at the forwards, you have Kotkaniemi only played 10 minutes yesterday. He only played 10 minutes and 21 seconds. And now he has a goal per game in the playoffs. So out of the 4 goals that the Canadiens have scored in these playoffs so far, adding is surprisingly difficult. But out of the 4 goals that the Canadiens have in these playoffs so far, Kotkaniemi has 2 of them. Whether it was the garbage goal, the sloppy garbage goal they scored in game 1, or the nice, being in good position, pouncing on the rebound goal that he scored yesterday in game 2, Kotkaniemi is right now, between Kotkaniemi and obviously Suzuki, even though numbers don't show it as much, but Kotkaniemi statistically is the best goal scorer in the Canadiens right now, from a pure statistical standpoint. So why is he only getting 10 minutes a game? Yes, on the previous show that I did with my friend Sheldon Weisberg on Friday, I did mention that Kotkaniemi should maybe take a backseat to Domi, Deneau, and Suzuki. But you know what? Kotkaniemi now has earned the fact he has earned more ice time. He has earned more opportunities because, again, he statistically is the best goal scorer in the Montreal Canadiens in these playoffs so far. So why is he only getting 10 minutes of ice time in a game? Why? So that has to be better. We have to see more of him next game. Domi, same thing. He had 14 minutes, but guys like Suzuki had 19 minutes. Gallagher had 19 minutes, and Yelke is on the top line. Drouin, I believe, Drouin had 16 minutes. There's no way that Domi should have less ice time than Jonathan Drouin with the way both players performed last night. There's no way that should be the case. It's pretty much all the important notes in terms of ice time. Just we got to see more Kotkaniemi and we got to see more Domi because they've earned it. Plain and simple, they've earned it. Yeah, sure, Domi came in late during training camp, and Kotkaniemi is, going into these playoffs was your 4th, maybe even your 5th best center. But you know what? Kotkaniemi now is at least your 3rd best center, and he deserves more ice time definitely over Jonathan Drouin, definitely over anyone on the 4th line. And if it means, and at this point, it should not come at the expense of Max Domi's ice time, and that's why Max Domi should maybe even play on the wing, just so he could find a place for him in the top 3 lines, and just roll with that. And sure, maybe have your 4th line of, if you want to put in Jake Evans for Dale Weiss, sure, have that 4th line play 9 minutes each of let's say Wheel, Evans, and Jonathan Drouin. Have them play 10 minutes, but have Kotkaniemi play 15. Have Max Domi play 16 or 17 minutes, right? And that's basically it. Just want to see if there's any other notes I want to go over here. Just and then the same thing. The last minute, Drouin being on the ice in the last minute instead of Max Domi when you need to tie the game. Yeah, I understand the concept. Obviously, he's one of your best offensive players in theory, but clearly not in reality. Jonathan Drouin, again, I'm sorry. Just you got to accept that he doesn't have it. You got to accept it. And we got to put him on the. Not to say that we shouldn't dress him, but we got to put him on the 4th line and as a wake up call and see what that does and see if maybe that reignites him. Sure, but he can't be eating up other players' minutes that deserve the ice time that he's been getting yesterday. So yeah. And that's it for this particular live show, this live post-game show of Canadiens versus Penguins. If you like what you saw, then be sure to subscribe to my channel and tap the notification bell so you know when my next video comes out. Also, shoot me a follow on Twitter at Mike Langerr with 2 R's, and same thing on Instagram at Mike Langerr. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode, which will be in a half an hour. This next episode of Langerr at the Mic, which will be a roundtable between Ryan Silver and Ethan Myers and myself. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you then.